Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Akuma Fun. Today we will be reviewing Cracking the China Conundrum by Yukon Huang. The subtitle is Why Conventional Economic Wisdom is Wrong. This book covers obviously the Chinese economy, and it's good because it provides not only an outsider's viewpoint on China, it also shows an insider's view on China. It explains why China's economy behaves differently than other economies. It explains the background on why China is facing the problems it's facing today. It goes over the reforms implemented by Deng Xiaoping. It goes over the debt dilemma that China is going through. It goes over the geo-economic imperatives. It goes over perceptions from the Chinese about the world and from the world about China. And it even touches a little bit about geopolitics, just a little bit. But primarily it is an economics book. The author explains things in a clear way. However, if you don't have a basic understanding of economics, this book is not for you. This book is definitely for you if you understand basic economics. Check out my video I did on review on basic economics by Thomas Sowell. Actually, I was just thinking about it. One more thing I'd like to mention is some of the things in the book I personally disagree with. They always bring up citations about income inequality and such and such, but personally I do not believe or think the data does not show that increased level of income inequalities causes any other real problems in a society. I don't like the characterization of free market economics in Western democracies. There are some things I disagree with. Because I think fundamentally the author has a Keynesian view of economics and I do not. So keep that in mind also. You should have a basic of economics. You should understand how capital markets work, just the basics, and you should also learn about how central banking works, and a few other things. But if you have a basic grasp, knowledge of understanding about those subjects, you'll be able to just about understand what this book is saying. The reason why I say just about is because there's a lot of terminology in there that they define, but you have to, like I just said, you have to understand the basics of what's going on here for this book because it's trying to paint a very clear picture of what's going on in the entire Chinese economy, a very complex subject. So it breaks it down in blocks, but it assumes that you understand the basic blocks. The book really taught me a lot about China. One of the people I follow on the internet, his name is Academic Agent. He talks about how in America we're capitalists in a cage of socialism, right? And that is, it's kind of true. It's kind of not. However, that very clearly describes the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy is, quite frankly, it's socialist. It's socialist. But the interesting about the Chinese economy is that you have governments, you have state-owned commercial banks. Basically, the government owns anything that's important about an economy. You bet that the Chinese government owns it, whether it's oil, energy, real estate, land. What else? Banking, all sorts of stuff. The Chinese government owns it, but somehow China has figured out a way to allow the free market, and by free market I'm going to use entrepreneurs from now on. It's figured out a way to use entrepreneurs the government and the federal central government and the local governments and the state-owned commercial banks, the Chinese government basically incentivizes growth. Everything is saying if you can get growth, that's the goal of our economy currently. But the reason why I bring that up is because it's in transition. China is currently in transition, and this book really clearly puts forth the basic, quite frankly, the major issues facing the Chinese economy today. It makes me understand that China is in quite a perilous situation. On the one hand, you have the world thinking the world has an overwhelmingly negative view on China. You have the United States putting lots of geopolitical pressure onto China. Inside China, you have some demographic issues. You have a misalignment of government and business, and it all combines into this combination that, the Chinese, if they screw up, they're done. If one thing goes wrong, the people will either overthrow them or something like that, right? What China is most afraid of, and why China is the way it is because the Chinese are more afraid of their own people than they are of anybody else. And what they basically told them is, if you give us power, the Chinese Communist Party said, if you give us power, we'll give you economic growth. It's such an interesting picture laid out by this book, because it's not a pro-China book and it's not an anti-China book. It's a realistic, holistic view of China. I highly recommend it. I don't even remember how I stumbled across this, and as you can see, I have like post-it notes and all this stuff because I was taking notes. This is the book I used to take notes. These chapters here are the ones I used to take notes for the Chinese videos I did. But this will be the conclusion of this series. I highly recommend the book. Who's this book for? I'll just end it like this. This book is perfect for people who are interested in geopolitics, who are interested in geoeconomics, who are interested in obviously China's economy. For people who are concerned whether that China will either overtake or America will. Basically, people concerned about people who are interested in China's rise as a regional power, and also people who are obviously interested in economics in general. But for stock market investors to invest in Chinese companies, this book is probably a must. People love to talk about. I saw a video today by, I think, what is it? Brandon Beavis, I think, uploaded it. I didn't watch it yet, but it's called Is Investing in Chinese Companies Safe, right? And there's a whole bunch of issues with that, right? But I don't know the specifics. But basically, my thoughts are, if I have a bearish thesis on the Chinese economy, then I'm not going to invest in Chinese stocks. If I have a bullish thesis, then I will invest in Chinese stocks. Right now, personally, I'm pretty bullish on China. Quite frankly, I think that even if the worst case scenario happens, they'll still be growing quite fast, probably about India type fast. They're walking a fine line between complete disaster and riches. Such an interesting country and such a different place than us, but at the same time, not so different. They're still capitalist. They still have to figure out how to get businesses and governments to work properly together and not hinder each other. It's such an interesting topic. If you want to purchase a copy, check the link below. I'll leave a link in the description of Amazon. That's where I purchased the book. I do receive a commission if you purchase the book, so if you do, thank you very much. Yeah, guys, if you're interested in my me discussing other stuff about China, I have 2 videos. The history of China video, and I also did a video about the Chinese debt crisis. Check those here, and I believe here. If you want to subscribe, click the middle one or press the middle one. Thank you very, very much for watching. Akuma out.